Dr. Sarah Chen had imagined first contact thousands of times during her career as Earth's leading xenobiologist. In none of those scenarios had she expected the aliens to literally fall from the sky in a shower of crystalline light. The being before her in the containment chamber of the Global Science Initiative's headquarters defied every biological principle she'd ever studied. Its form shifted like liquid starlight, a translucent body that pulsed with internal luminescence. More remarkable still was the fact that it was speaking, not through sound waves, but through patterns of light that somehow translated directly into comprehensible thoughts in her mind. "We are the luminary," it communicated, its form rippling with colors that seemed to convey both urgency and exhaustion. "We come seeking humanity's help, though we know you are young among the stars." Sarah glanced at General Rivera beside her, noting how the hardened military commander's hand had finally dropped away from his sidearm. The initial panic of the luminary's arrival, 15 crystalline ships appearing suddenly in Earth's atmosphere, had given way to cautious fascination. "Why us?" Sarah asked, her scientific curiosity overwhelming protocol. "Surely there are more advanced civilizations out there." The luminary's form pulsed with what Sarah was beginning to recognize as something akin to bitter amusement. "Advanced is relative, Dr. Chen. We have mapped the cosmos for millennia. We have mastered the arts of crystal consciousness and stellar engineering. But we are dying. Our entire civilization flees before something we cannot comprehend, cannot fight, cannot." The being's light dimmed momentarily, and Sarah fought the urge to step closer to the containment field. This creature's distress felt almost tangible. "We call it the hunger," the luminary continued. "It devours entire star systems, not just destroying them, but unmaking them. Where it passes, the very laws of physics break down. Entropy accelerates. Order becomes meaningless." A pause, then. "We have lost 37 colony worlds in the past solar cycle alone." General Rivera stepped forward. "And you think we can help? Earth hasn't even established colonies beyond Mars yet." "That," the luminary pulsed, "is precisely why we need you. Your species is remarkable. You are chaos incarnate." Sarah blinked. "I'm sorry, but that doesn't sound like a compliment." "But it is." The crystalline being's form brightened with excitement. "Look at your history. Every time you've faced extinction, you've adapted. Every time you've hit a barrier, you've found an impossible way around it. You take established rules and break them, then forge something new from the pieces." The luminary moved closer to the containment field. "We luminary follow patterns. Beautiful, perfect, mathematical patterns. Our technology, our society, our very thoughts flow in crystalline precision. But the hunger, it destroys patterns. It feeds on predictability. Against it, our perfect order becomes a perfect weakness." Understanding began to dawn in Sarah's mind. "And we're unpredictable." "Gloriously so." The alien's form shimmered with what could only be described as joy. "Your minds work in ways we cannot fathom. Where we see immutable laws, you see suggestions to be challenged. Where we follow one path, you create 1,000 alternatives." General Rivera's stern expression had given way to thoughtful consideration. "You're saying our greatest strength is our messiness, our tendency to break rules and take crazy chances." "Indeed. We've observed your species for some time. You call it thinking outside the box. But to us, it's like you don't even see the box. You imagine possibilities that should not exist, then somehow make them real." Sarah moved to her console, pulling up readings from the luminary ships in orbit. "These vessels of yours, they're alive, aren't they? Some kind of crystalline consciousness." "Yes. We grow our ships from living crystal, guide them through thought and pattern. But they are rigid, predictable. The hunger tears through our defenses like they don't exist." The alien's light pulsed with what Sarah was beginning to recognize as hope. "But if we could combine our technology with your chaos." "Absolutely not," General Rivera interrupted. allowing alien tech to interface with human consciousness. The security risks alone would be considerable, Sarah finished, but so would the potential benefits. She was already running simulations on her tablet. Their crystalline technology operates on principles we barely understand, but if we could merge it with human neural patterns. She looked up at the luminary. You're talking about creating something entirely new, aren't you? Not human, not luminary, but a hybrid that takes the best of both. The alien's form brightened. Your mind jumps to possibilities faster than our greatest scientists, Dr. Chen. Yes, we believe that human consciousness, interfaced with our crystal technology, might create something the hunger cannot predict, and therefore cannot consume. General Rivera shook his head. The risks are nothing compared to the risk of doing nothing, Sarah countered. She projected a holographic display of astronomical data. Show us where the hunger is now. The luminary touched the display with a tendril of light, and the map shifted to show a massive void moving through space, systems winking out one by one in its wake. At its current pace, it will reach Earth in approximately 5 of your years. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Sarah looked at the general, saw the same realization in his eyes. They could reject the luminary's offer, maintain their isolation, and face the hunger alone when it arrived. Or they could take a chance on something unprecedented. I'll volunteer, Sarah said suddenly. All eyes turned to her. For the first neural interface test, I'm already the most knowledgeable human on luminary biology, and we can't risk our leading xenobiologist on an experimental procedure. General Rivera cut in, but his tone had softened. However, I know some pilots who've been itching to fly something more exciting than orbital shuttles. The luminary's form pulsed with such bright hope that the containment field sensors momentarily overloaded. Then you'll help us. Sarah looked at the general, who gave a slight nod. We'll help, she said, not just because we want to save ourselves, but because that's what humans do. We see impossible problems, and we tackle them head-on, no matter how crazy the solution might seem. Speaking of crazy solutions, she added, already pulling up research protocols on her tablet, I have some ideas about how we might approach the neural interface. They're completely unconventional, probably break about a dozen laws of physics as we understand them, and might just be crazy enough to work. The luminary's light rippled with what might have been laughter. Dr. Chen, I believe you just perfectly summarized why we came to Earth in the first place. Outside the facility, the sun was setting on humanity's last day as a singular species. Tomorrow would bring the dawn of something new, a fusion of human chaos and luminary order, of earthborn determination and starforged precision. The hunger was coming, but it had never faced anything like what humanity and the luminary would create together. And Sarah Chen, watching the crystalline ships glitter against the darkening sky, couldn't help but smile. After all, impossible odds were humanity's specialty. Marcus Walsh had always wanted to touch the stars. As a test pilot for the Global Science Initiative's Aerospace Division, he'd come close, skimming the edge of space in experimental aircraft, pushing the boundaries of what human technology could achieve. But nothing in his years of experience had prepared him for this moment. The crystal ship before him pulsed with its own inner light, somehow managing to look both solid and liquid at the same time. Its surface rippled like water made of diamonds, responding to his presence as he approached. Dr. Chen had explained the theory, that the ship was alive, conscious in its own alien way, but seeing it react to him made the reality sink in. Remember, Sarah's voice came through his neural link. The interface is a two-way connection. Don't try to control the ship. Think of it more like a dance. You lead sometimes, it leads sometimes. Marcus touched the crystalline surface, feeling an immediate tingling sensation through his neural implant. The ship's exterior yielded to his hand like warm glass, drawing him inside. It's beautiful, he whispered, watching patterns of light dance across the internal chambers. Focus, Walsh, General Rivera's stern voice cut in. This isn't a sightseeing tour. We need to know if human consciousness can actually interface with their technology. The luminary ambassador, who had taken the name Aurora, floated nearby. Its form shimmered with what Marcus had learned to recognize as anticipation. "Your mind is turbulent," Aurora observed. "Perfect for what we attempt today." Marcus settled into what appeared to be a pilot's station, though it bore no resemblance to any cockpit he'd ever seen. Instead of instruments and controls, there were only flowing patterns of crystal that responded to his thoughts. The neural interface at the base of his skull hummed to life. "Beginning interface sequence," Sarah announced from the monitoring station. "Marcus, remember, don't fight the initial disorientation. Let it happen." The world dissolved into light. Marcus felt his consciousness expand, flowing through crystalline pathways like water through a complex network of streams. The ship wasn't just a vessel. It was alive, aware, curious about him as he was about it. Their thoughts met, merged, separated, and danced together in patterns that defied traditional physics. "Neural patterns are stable," he heard Sarah say, her voice seeming to come from everywhere and nowhere. "Luminary crystal matrix is accepting the interface. My God, look at these synchronization patterns." Marcus barely heard her. He was too busy experiencing what it meant to be both human and ship at the same time. He could feel solar wind against his crystalline hull, sense the magnetic fields of Earth rippling around him. More than that, he could feel possibilities. Countless potential futures branching out from every moment. "Take us up," General Rivera ordered. Slowly. Marcus thought about rising, and the ship responded, not with the brutal thrust of chemical rockets, but with a graceful manipulation of gravity itself. They ascended through the atmosphere like a leaf riding a thermal, each movement a perfect fusion of human intuition and crystalline precision. Marcus struggled to find words. "It's like nothing I've ever experienced. The ship doesn't just respond to commands. It anticipates, suggests, creates new ways of moving that I never would have thought of." Aurora's form brightened. "Yes, this is what we hoped for. Your chaotic thought patterns are teaching our crystal matrix new ways to interact with space-time. Each moment creates possibilities that have never existed before." They broke through the atmosphere into open space, Earth's blue curve stretching below them. Marcus felt a surge of joy, both his own and the ship's, at the sight. Then the alarms began. Multiple anomalies detected at the edge of the solar system. Sarah's voice cut through his wonder. Energy signatures mesh the Hunger's scout vessels. Marcus felt fear spike through him, but the crystal ship's consciousness steadied him, showing him patterns of movement and defense he never would have imagined. Together, they were more than either could be alone. 3 scout ships, Aurora reported, its form dimming with concern. "They are testing our defenses, learning our patterns. Then let's show them something they've never seen before," Marcus said, feeling the grin spread across his face. The crystal ship's enthusiasm matched his own. He could feel it suggesting modifications to his half-formed plans, turning human intuition into reality through alien technology. They moved in ways that should have been impossible, combining the ship's gravity manipulation with Marcus's instinctive understanding of aerial combat. Each maneuver flowed into the next like an improvised dance, never repeating, never falling into predictable patterns. The first scout ship, a void in space that hurt the eyes to look at, tried to intercept them, but where it expected them to dodge left or right, Marcus and the ship chose to spiral through dimensions he hadn't known existed until this moment. The void entity seemed to hesitate, confronted with behavior its ancient intelligence couldn't predict. "It's working." Sarah's excited voice rang through the neural link. "The scout ships are actually pulling back. They can't anticipate your movements." Marcus felt the crystal ship's pride mingling with his own. Together, they pressed their advantage, pushing toward the nearest scout. The void entity tried to adjust, to calculate their trajectory. But how could it predict something that was being invented moment by a fusion of human creativity and crystalline technology? More than that, Aurora chimed in, its form bright with excitement. The hybrid patterns you're creating. They're actually disrupting the hunger's ability to unmake space-time. Your chaotic movements are stabilizing reality in your wake. The implications hit Marcus even as he spun through another impossible maneuver. They hadn't just created a defense against the hunger. They'd discovered a way to fight back. Each unpredictable movement of the hybrid ship was like an affirmation of existence itself, a declaration that reality wouldn't submit to the hunger's entropy. The scout ships retreated, seemingly communicated with each other in ways the sensors couldn't detect. Then they vanished, leaving normal space behind them. "They're gone," Marcus reported, feeling the crystal ship's satisfaction matching his own. "But they'll be back, and they'll bring reinforcements." "Let them come," General Rivera said, and Marcus could hear the rare smile in his voice. "Now we know we can hurt them." "Dr. Chen, how soon can we begin interfacing more pilots?" Sarah's response was immediate. "I've already identified 20 candidates with the right neural plasticity. But Marcus's success gives us more than just a fighting chance. The data we've collected from this test flight, the way human consciousness merges with luminary technology, it's showing us possibilities we never imagined." Marcus gently guided the ship back toward Earth, marveling at how natural it felt now. The crystal consciousness flowed with his thoughts, no longer alien but simply another part of himself. "It's not just about fighting the hunger," he said, understanding flowing through him from both his human intuition and the ship's crystalline knowledge. "We're creating something entirely new. A bridge between species, between ways of thinking." "Yes," Aurora agreed, its form pulsing with complex emotions. "Our peoples were meant to find each other, to combine our strengths. The hunger seeks to unmake reality. But together, we will remake it into something stronger." As they descended through the atmosphere, Marcus watched the sunrise painting Earth's curve with golden light. Humanity had always reached for the stars, dreaming of what they might find there. Now the stars had reached back, offering not just advanced technology, but a chance to evolve into something greater than either species could be alone. The crystal ship hummed with agreement, showing him visions of possibilities that made his human mind reel with wonder. The hunger was coming, yes, but it would find something waiting that it had never encountered before in all its eons of unmaking worlds, the perfect fusion of chaos and order, of human unpredictability and luminary precision. And maybe, just maybe, that would be enough to save them all. The medical bay of the Global Science Initiative hummed with the combined energies of human technology and luminary crystal matrices. Dr. Sarah Chen moved between the recovery pods, each containing a pilot fresh from their first neural interface experience. Their brainwave patterns danced across monitoring screens in impossible fractals, no longer purely human, but not quite luminary either. "How are they?" General Rivera asked, his usual military bearing softened by concern. In the 3 months since Marcus Walsh's successful first flight, they'd integrated 50 pilots with crystal ships. Each integration changed not just the pilot, but their understanding of what was possible. "Their minds are adapting faster than we anticipated," Sarah replied, studying the latest neural scans. "The human brain's plasticity is extraordinary. They're not just learning to interface with the crystal consciousness, they're evolving with it." Captain Amara Patel stirred in her recovery pod, her eyes opening to reveal traces of crystalline luminescence. Like many of the pilots, the neural integration had left visible changes. "The stars," she whispered, her voice carrying echoes of harmonics no human throat should be able to produce. "I can still feel them singing." Sarah helped her sit up, noting how the pilot's movements carried a new fluid grace. "That's normal," she assured her. "The crystal consciousness remains partially linked even after physical separation. It's helping your mind process the experience." "Normal?" Amara laughed softly. "Nothing about this is normal, Doctor. When I merged with the ship, I wasn't just flying it. I became something else. Something more." Her eyes focused on something distant. "We all did. Aurora materialized nearby, its crystalline form reflecting the medical bay's lights in complex patterns. Your transformation is remarkable. Each pilot develops a unique resonance with their ship, creating patterns we never imagined possible. The hunger will not expect this diversity of response. General Rivera's tablet chimed with an urgent alert. His expression hardened as he read the incoming data. They're not going to have to wait much longer to experience it firsthand. Long-range sensors have detected a major incursion. This isn't a scouting force. It's the main fleet. Sarah felt her heart skip. How long? 48 hours until they reach the outer defense perimeter. He looked at the recovery pods. Are they ready? Before Sarah could respond, Amara swung her legs off the medical bed. We have to be. Other pilots were stirring in their pods, drawn from healing sleep by the urgency of the moment. The ships are calling to us. They know what's coming. Marcus Walsh entered the medical bay, his presence immediately drawing everyone's attention. The first successful pilot had become something of a legend, his deep integration with his crystal ship serving as a model for those who followed. The luminescent tracery beneath his skin pulsed with purpose. I've seen the sensor data, he said, his voice carrying that same haunting harmonic. The hunger is adapting its approach. It's learned from the scouting encounters, trying to develop countermeasures against our unpredictability. Can it succeed? Rivera demanded. Aurora's form dimmed slightly. The hunger is ancient. It has devoured countless civilizations, each time absorbing and nullifying their defensive strategies. But it has never encountered anything like this fusion of human and luminary consciousness. Because we keep changing, Sarah realized, watching the pilots emerge from their pods. Each moved differently, their humanity enhanced rather than suppressed by their crystal integration. Every pilot-ship combination creates unique patterns. We're not just unpredictable in our tactics, we're unpredictable in our very evolution. Amara stretched, small crystals catching the light beneath her dark skin. When I merge with my ship, I don't just see space differently. I see possibilities, paths that shouldn't exist, ways of moving that defy physics as we understood it. That's what the hunger fears, Marcus said, his eyes reflecting starlight that wasn't there. It feeds on certainty, on predictable patterns it can unmake. But he gestured to the assembled pilots, each bearing their own signs of transformation. We are becoming something it cannot predict, cannot calculate, cannot consume. General Rivera's tablet displayed a strategic overlay of the solar system. The void that was the hunger's fleet showed as an absence, a massive nothing that consumed sensor data as readily as it consumed reality itself. We have 50 pilot ship combinations ready for combat. The luminary fleet adds another 100 conventional crystal ships. Against that, he pointed to the spreading darkness. Numbers don't tell the whole story, Sarah countered. Each hybrid pilot ship combination has proven more effective than 10 conventional vessels. And there's something else. She pulled up her latest research data. The transformative effect isn't limited to the pilots. Each successful merge creates new patterns that ripple through reality itself. We're not just fighting the hunger, we're changing the fundamental rules it operates on. Aurora's form brightened with excitement. Yes, we see it in the quantum readings, where hybrid ships pass. Space-time itself becomes more resistant to the hunger's entropy effect. It's as if the crystalline being seemed to search for words, as if reality itself is learning from our combined strength. Alarms began sounding throughout the facility. General Rivera's expression tightened as he read the incoming data. They've accelerated. New estimate puts them at the defense perimeter in 36 hours. The pilots moved as one, each heading toward their ships with purposeful grace. Sarah watched them go, these men and women who had volunteered to become something more than human. Something that might save not just Earth, but reality itself. Doctor. Amara paused at the door, her crystalline eyes holding Sarah's gaze. What we're becoming. Does it frighten you? Sarah thought of the neural scans, the impossible patterns, the way human consciousness danced with crystal matrices to create something entirely new. "No," she said finally. "It amazes me. You're not losing your humanity. You're expanding it. Taking what makes us human, our adaptability, our creativity, our endless capacity for change, and evolving it into something wonderful." Marcus stepped up beside Amara, his presence somehow both grounding and otherworldly. The hunger thinks it's coming to devour another civilization. Instead, it's going to encounter humanity's greatest talent, taking the impossible and making it not just possible, but inevitable. As the pilots departed for their ships, Sarah turned to her research station. There would be no rest in the hours ahead. The hunger was coming, bringing with it the end of everything it touched. But humanity had never accepted endings imposed by others. With the luminaries' help, they had forged themselves into something new, something that defied prediction or limitation. The battle ahead would reshape more than just the solar system. It would prove that in the face of cosmic horror, humanity's greatest weapon was its ability to change, to adapt, to become more than anyone, even themselves, thought possible. And the hunger, ancient and terrible as it was, had never faced anything like that before. The vast chamber beneath the Mojave Desert thrummed with energy as Dr. Sarah Chen stared at the experimental engine before her. It wasn't like any engine humanity had ever built, an impossible fusion of crystalline matrices and human neural patterns, pulsing with its own inner light. The theories behind it had come from the merged consciousness of the hybrid pilots, their transformed minds seeing possibilities that neither human nor luminary science had imagined. "The readings are off the charts," she muttered, watching quantum measurements that shouldn't have been possible. "Every time we activate it, it generates new patterns. It's not just random, it's actively evolving." Aurora hovered nearby, its crystalline form reflecting the engine's shifting lights. "We never conceived of using neural patterns as an energy source. The chaos of human consciousness, amplified through our crystal matrices, it creates something entirely new." "A chaos engine," Marcus Walsh said, stepping into the chamber. His own crystalline augmentations pulsed in sympathy with the experimental device. After months of active integration with his ship, the changes had progressed further. Geometric patterns of light traced constant patterns beneath his skin, and his eyes held reflections of spaces that didn't exist in normal reality. Sarah turned to him, noting how the other pilots filed in behind him, each bearing their own unique manifestations of the human crystal merger. They moved like a coordinated unit now, but not in the rigid way of military precision. Rather, they flowed like a school of fish or a flock of birds, each maintaining their individuality while part of a greater whole. "The Hunger's main fleet has breached Saturn's orbit," General Rivera announced, entering with tactical displays hovering around him. "Another innovation born from the hybrid technology. Our outer defense lines report it's different from the scouting forces, more focused, more hungry." "It's afraid," Amara Patel said, her voice carrying harmonic overtones that made the air itself vibrate. "We can feel it through the void. For the first time in its existence, it faces something it cannot simply consume and understand." Marcus nodded, approaching the Chaos engine. The scout ships that escaped, they carried back more than just tactical data. They showed the Hunger something it had never seen before, prey that could fight back, prey that could change it. Sarah pulled up the latest sensor data, showing the vast nothingness that was the Hunger's fleet approaching the solar system. But there was something different in its advance now. A hesitation, a caution that hadn't been there before. The hybrid ships heard it, she realized, overlaying quantum readings from previous encounters. Not just fought it off, actually damaged its ability to unmake reality. "Every time our pilots engage with it using these new patterns, we teach reality how to resist it," Aurora finished, its form brightening with excitement. "Each battle, each new pattern we create, strengthens the fundamental forces that hold space-time together. We are not just fighting the Hunger, we are teaching the universe how to fight back." The chaos engine pulsed, responding to the heightened emotions in the room. Sarah watched as patterns of energy spiraled through it in ways that defied physics as she had known it. The hybrid pilots had described the concept to her, a way to weaponize the very unpredictability that made human consciousness so powerful. But seeing it in action still took her breath away. "How many can we have ready in time?" Rivera asked, his tactical mind already calculating deployment strategies. Sarah consulted her data. "We have 5 fully operational, 20 more in final assembly, each one capable of generating enough chaos patterns to protect a small fleet." She looked at the assembled pilots. "But they'll need guidance. The raw energy has to be shaped by consciousness that understands both order and chaos." "We'll need to split our forces," Marcus said, his crystalline augmentations pulsing with strategic calculations. "The main hybrid fleet engaging directly, while smaller groups guard the chaos engines. If we can establish a wide enough field of unpredictable energy, we can create spaces where the hunger cannot exist." Amara finished. "Areas where reality itself becomes too chaotic for it to maintain its grip." General Rivera's tactical displays showed the deployment options, human military strategy blending with luminary precision, and the hybrid pilot's enhanced insight. "The hunger will reach Jupiter's orbit in 15 hours. That's where we make our stand." "Not just a stand," Aurora chimed, its crystalline form resonating with the chaos engine's pulses. "A transformation. What we create here, this fusion of human chaos and luminary order, will change the fundamental nature of space-time itself." Sarah watched as the pilots moved toward their ships, each carrying a piece of the plan in their transformed minds. They were no longer simply humans operating alien technology. They had become living bridges between two ways of existing, creating something entirely new in the process. "Wait," she called out, a sudden realization striking her. "The neural patterns in the chaos engines, they're not just random human consciousness, are they? They're evolving, learning, becoming more complex." Marcus paused, his crystalline eyes meeting hers. "They're becoming like us," he said softly, "a fusion of human and luminary thought patterns. Each engine is developing its own kind of awareness, not alive in the way we understand it, but creating new forms of existence," Aurora completed. "Just as you humans have evolved through your merger with our crystal technology, these engines represent the evolution of energy itself. The chaos they generate isn't truly chaos. It's a higher form of order, one that even the hunger cannot comprehend or consume." The implications staggered Sarah. They weren't just developing weapons or defenses. They were midwifing the birth of something entirely new. The hybrid pilots, the chaos engines, the very fabric of space-time itself, all were being transformed by this unprecedented fusion of human and luminary potential. General Rivera's comm system crackled with urgent updates. The Hunger's fleet had accelerated, perhaps sensing the threat of what was being born in these hidden chambers beneath Earth's surface. They had less time than they'd thought. But as Sarah watched the pilots move toward their ships, saw the way reality itself seemed to ripple around them, she felt an unexpected sense of hope. The hunger had existed for eons, devouring civilizations, consuming ordered patterns of existence. But it had never encountered this glorious fusion of chaos and order, this evolution of consciousness and energy into forms it could never have predicted. The battle ahead would not just determine the fate of Earth or even this galaxy. It would decide whether reality itself would remain enslaved to predictable patterns or evolve into something far more wonderful and strange. And humanity, in all its magnificent chaos, was helping to lead the way. In the void between Jupiter and Mars, reality itself held its breath. Dr. Sarah Chen watched from the command center as the hybrid fleet took up its positions, each ship a brilliant point of light against the encroaching darkness. The Hunger's main fleet approached like a wave of unbeing, a vast nothingness that consumed the very concept of existence. But this time, existence was ready to fight back. "Chaos engines at full power," she reported, watching energy readings that defied conventional physics. The reality reinforcement field is holding steady. Around her, the command center hummed with the combined power of human and luminary technology. Crystalline displays showing impossible data in ways her transformed mind could somehow comprehend. "All pilots report ready," General Rivera announced. The tactical display showed 50 hybrid ships arranged in a complex pattern, their formations guided by mathematics that existed somewhere between order and chaos. Behind them, the massive chaos engines pulsed with power, each one generating fields of pure unpredictability. Marcus Walsh's voice came through the command channel, carrying those haunting harmonics that marked all the hybrid pilots now. "The hunger is trying to analyze our patterns. We can feel it probing, seeking weaknesses. But there's something else." His voice trailed off as his enhanced senses reached through space. "Fear," Amara Patel completed from her own ship. For the first time in its existence, the hunger faces something it cannot understand, cannot predict, cannot consume. Aurora materialized beside Sarah, its crystalline form vibrating with tension. It comes, and it brings everything it has devoured. All the patterns it has consumed, all the realities it has unmade. It means to overwhelm us with the weight of extinct civilizations. The void rippled, and Sarah felt reality shudder. The hunger's attack began not with energy or matter, but with patterns, the accumulated knowledge of 1,000 dead species, each one twisted and corrupted into weapons of unmaking. Space itself began to unravel as laws of physics collapsed under the assault. But the hybrid fleet was ready. Each pilot-ship combination moved in ways that should have been impossible, their paths through space-time guided by consciousness that was neither human nor luminary, but something gloriously new. The chaos engines responded to their movements, generating fields of protection that didn't just resist the hunger's entropy. They transformed it. "Energy patterns are shifting," Sarah reported, watching in amazement as her instruments tried to make sense of what was happening. The hybrid ships aren't just deflecting the hunger's attack. They're absorbing it, learning from it, creating new forms of existence from the patterns of destruction. Marcus's ship dove through a tear in spacetime, its wake leaving reality stronger than before. The patterns it uses to unmake existence, we can reverse them. Show reality new ways to be, new ways to resist. Amara's voice joined in, her ship dancing through dimensions that hadn't existed moments before. "Every attack it launches teaches us more. We learn, we adapt, we evolve, and we teach the universe to do the same." The hunger's assault intensified, bringing to bear weapons that had ended entire civilizations. But each attack met not the rigid order it had always encountered before, but a fluid, evolving defense that turned its own power against it. The hybrid pilots moved their ships in patterns that created new laws of physics even as they broke old ones. The chaos engines, Aurora's cry drew Sarah's attention to the readings. The massive devices were no longer simply generating protective fields. They were evolving, their neural networks learning from both the hybrid pilots and the hunger itself. Each pulse of energy they released carried new possibilities, new ways of existing that spread through space like ripples in a cosmic pond. They're not just engines anymore, Sarah realized, watching patterns that reminded her of neural pathways forming between the devices. They're becoming aware, growing into something new, just like our pilots did. The hunger seemed to recoil, its void-like presence wavering as it encountered something truly unpredictable. For the first time in its ancient existence, it faced not just resistance, but transformation. The very chaos it had sought to consume was instead consuming it, teaching it new ways to exist. Then Marcus's voice cut through the command channel, carrying an idea born from his transformed consciousness. "We don't need to destroy it. We need to change it. Show it there's more to existence than consumption and entropy." The hybrid fleet moved as one, not in the rigid patterns of military precision, but in flowing, evolving formations that drew the hunger's attention. The chaos engines pulsed in harmony with their movements, creating spaces where reality itself learned new ways to exist. Now, Sarah commanded, activating protocols that had come to her in dreams of crystal and stardust. The hybrid fleet split apart, each ship moving in its own unique pattern, while somehow remaining part of a greater whole. Between them, the Chaos engines released their full power, not in destruction, but in transformation. The Hunger tried to retreat, to return to the simple patterns of consumption it had known for eons. But it was too late. The hybrid fleet's dance had surrounded it, and the Chaos engine's power had already begun to work its change. Reality shuddered, shifted, and was reborn. Where the Hunger had been, something new emerged, a swirling cosmos of possibility, neither order nor chaos, but a beautiful fusion of both. The ancient entity that had consumed countless civilizations found itself transformed, its very nature rebuilt into something that created rather than destroyed. "It's beautiful," Amara whispered, her ship moving through spaces that glowed with new forms of existence. The hybrid fleet regrouped, each pilot sensing through their transformed consciousness the magnitude of what they had achieved. "Not victory through destruction," Aurora chimed, its crystalline form bright with joy, "but through transformation, through showing even entropy itself that there are better ways to be." Sarah watched as the reading stabilized, showing her a universe forever changed by what they had accomplished here. The hybrid pilots had done more than save Earth. They had shown reality itself how to evolve, how to become something more than the sum of its parts. "What happens now?" General Rivera asked, looking at the swirling beauty that had replaced the void of the Hunger. Marcus's voice came through, filled with wonder and possibility. "Now we explore, we learn, we grow. What we've created here, this fusion of human chaos and luminary order, it's just the beginning. The universe is learning new ways to exist, and we get to help guide that evolution." Sarah looked at the hybrid fleet, at the transformed Chaos engines, at the pilots who had become something gloriously more than human, while remaining perfectly human in all the ways that mattered. Humanity had reached for the stars, as it always had, but this time the stars had reached back. Together, they had created something unprecedented, a new way of existing that celebrated both change and pattern, both chaos and order. The battle was over, but the real adventure was just beginning. And as Sarah watched the hybrid ships dance through their new-made cosmos, she knew that whatever came next would be more wonderful and strange than anyone could have predicted. After all, that was what humanity did best, taking the impossible and making it magnificently, gloriously real.